Hello everyone, my name is Waffle and welcome to the 21st episode of Strats Explained, Magically Easy, a video series where I explain how and why different strats and glitches that speedrunners use work. Today we're going to look at the trick that allows you to take any weapon and copy its ammo to any other weapon. Speedrunners, for example, take SMG ammo and copy it to grenades. For a change, we are going to try a different weapon combination. Let's see how it's done. Start Phnom Penh 86 and during the takeoff sequence, select the weapon you are going to be copying the ammo from. I chose the pistol because I have 3000 bullets for it. Now do the mission normally, without any shenanigans, and do the same for the next one, the fastest boat. Next, start supply and demand, and before entering the first mission marker, select the weapon you are going to be copying the ammo to. I chose M60 as I only have 100 bullets for it. Make sure you have prepared the close icon replay, we are gonna need it right now. Wait until the cutscene ends and use the replay. This will allow us to switch weapons, even though we are in a vehicle. Switch to any weapon slot apart from the SMG one. Now we have to continue with the mission. You can either do that in the current state, to accelerate you use the sprint button, so shift for me, or you can go back to the normal state by shooting once. Do not get out of your boat, because if you do, you will have to redo the whole setup starting from the replay. The main point here is making sure that you have anything but an SMG selected when you reach the target boat. Now all that's left is finishing the mission normally, no more tricks. If everything was done right, then in the final cutscene you will see your weapon, and after the cutscene you'll be pleasantly surprised by the ammo counter. At the same time, you did not lose your pistol ammo, we are not transferring ammo, we are copying it. I personally think that this is a very unusual and interesting trick, let's understand how it works. First of all, I asked myself a question, what do Phnom Penh and supply and demand have in common? The answer is very simple, both missions have an auto-scroller part where we are given a weapon and instructed to shoot at enemies. I got curious to understand how it works, so I opened the script and relatively quickly found this command. Attach chart to car, player, body heli, weapon type M60. This is clearly the command that glues us to the Lance's helicopter and gives us the machine gun. If we find this command in RE Vice City, we'll see that there is only one function call, attach ped to entity. The function name implies that not only can we attach pedestrians to vehicles, but to other objects too. But anyway, let's see what's inside. Here we have quite a few lines of code, but only these three are relevant. The first one is a check. Is stored weapon equal to weapon type unidentified? I'll explain what that means a little bit later, but if that's true, then we're gonna take our current weapon, the one that we're holding, and save it into the stored weapon variable. And we're also going to take the ammo counter for that weapon and save it into attach web ammo. Clearly the magic happens somewhere around this variable, so let's see where else and how else it is used. We are gonna use the search and we'll see that there are not so many results, one of them being detach ped from entity, an inverse function for attaching. Here we first check that stored weapon is not equal to unidentified, so we currently have some weapon saved into the stored weapon variable, and if that's the case, we are gonna return that weapon back to player, we are going to restore the ammo for it as well, and after that we're gonna reset stored weapon back to the unidentified value. So this is basically the default value that tells us that there are currently no weapons being saved in the stored weapon variable. What happens here is quite simple. When an auto-scroller starts, the game remembers your current weapon and the ammo for it, and when the auto-scroller ends, the game gives back your initial weapon and the ammo. Why is it needed? Imagine that you have an M4 and you start supply and demand. The game gives you Kruger which shares the same slot with M4, you can't have both weapons at the same time. So if the game wants to give back your initial weapon, it first has to remember it somewhere, and that's exactly what is happening here. But let's see where else attach web ammo is used. There are two places where this variable is set to 0. The first one is constructor for pedestrians. First of all, every single pedestrian has its own attach web ammo counter, and it's set to 0 when this pedestrian is created. We don't really care about this code because we can just create a new player. But the other place is a little bit more dangerous. This is set initial state. This function is called after you die or get busted. So, if after Phnom Penh you die or get busted, attach web ammo is going to be set to 0, and if you continue with the trick, instead of copying ammo, you're going to lose all of your ammo for the target weapon, because this variable is currently set to 0. So now we understand that we cannot die and we cannot get busted. And also we cannot save and reload the game, because this variable is not stored in a save file, which means that if you save and reload, it's gonna be set back to 0 and you're gonna lose your ammo once again. But let's go back to the function that restores that ammo. How is it possible to get ammo for the wrong weapon? The only way I see is somehow changing stored weapon without changing attached web ammo. Is it possible? To answer that question, let's select stored weapon and find all of the references. We're gonna see that there are quite a few results, but trust me, it's not that bad. The easiest one is right here. Remove weapon when entering vehicle. And we remember that in GTA Vice City, if you're in a vehicle, you can only use submachine guns. So if you enter a vehicle while, say, holding a pistol, then the game is going to remember that you were holding a pistol. It's gonna select a submachine gun so you can use it, and after you decide to exit the vehicle, replace weapon when exiting vehicle will be called, and the game will give back your pistol. You will be holding it once again. I should also notice that these functions are called when you enter and exit vehicles normally, obviously, but they're also called if you're getting warped into or out of the vehicle, which usually happens in missions. The same thing we can see with phone calls. When you answer a phone call, your current weapon gets remembered, and when the phone call ends, you're given back your weapon. And finally, there's one more place. It's when you put a bomb on a vehicle, then the game is going to remember a detonator, so when you exit the vehicle, you're gonna be holding the detonator instead of the weapon you were holding initially. But we clearly don't care about any detonators. All of the other functions are quite interesting though. Did you notice that they come in pairs? There is an action, and we remember the weapon, and then there is an inverse action, and we restore the weapon. Get in the vehicle? Remember. Get out of the vehicle? Restore. Answer a phone call? Remember. Phone call ends? Restore. Autoscroller starts? Remember. Autoscroller ends? Restore. Is it possible to somehow break one of these pairs? If we go back to the code that is called when you enter and exit vehicles, we will see that there is another set of conditions. Let's see what they say. Our weapon is going to be remembered only if we have a weapon in slot number 5 and we have more than 0 bullets for it. As you've probably guessed, slot number 5 is the slot for submachine guns. And that's actually true. If we don't have a submachine gun and we enter a vehicle, we will see that our current weapon is not getting changed and we will still have the, say, pistol icon. We just won't be able to use that weapon. And now we understand that there is actually another condition for the trick. We must have an SMG in our inventory. We don't have to use it, but we must have it. When we exit the vehicle, there is another check. Is current weapon slot equal to weapon slot submachine gun? And that raises a question. Is it possible to somehow switch the weapon while we're in a vehicle? Normally, obviously, it is impossible. However, remember that at the start of the video, we've used the cloth icon, which allowed us to change weapons even though we were in a boat. I'll explain how that works a little bit later, but let's understand the consequences. If we switch the weapon to any other slot, then this condition is not going to be true, and all of the code below is not going to be executed. Meaning that stored weapon variable is still going to hold the saved weapon. And that's the last piece of the puzzle. Now we understand how everything works. Let's go through the whole sequence starting from Phnom Penh and finishing with supply and demand and see how these variables change. Our initial state before starting Phnom Penh is stored weapon is unidentified, attached web ammo is 0. We start Phnom Penh, we select our pistol with 3000 bullets for it, an autoscroller starts. Is stored weapon equal to unidentified? Yes it is, so the game remembers our pistol and it remembers 3000 bullets for it. An autoscroller finishes. The game gives us back our pistol, gives us back our ammo, and sets stored weapon to unidentified. Then we start supply and demand. Before activating the first marker, we select M60 and then we get into the boat. Well, we get warped into it, but it doesn't matter. The game checks, do we have an SMG in our inventory? Yes, we have something. Is stored weapon equal to unidentified? Yes, it is. So the game remembers our current weapon, so M60. After that, we use a close icon and we select a different slot. We reach the target boat and the game warps us out of the boat. Now this function is called, and we check, is our current weapon slot equal to the submachine gun one? No, it isn't, we've switched to something else, say to fists. So this condition is false, and this code is not executed. An auto-scroller starts. Is stored weapon equal to unidentified? No, it isn't, it is currently equal to M60. So this code is not executed either. And finally, when an auto-scroller finishes, is stored weapon not equal to unidentified? Yes, it's not equal, because it's equal to M60. So the game gives us back our stored weapon, M60, and it gives us back ammo for it, 3000 bullets. And that's how we've copied ammo from a pistol to M60. Now let's understand how a close icon helps. I dug around the code and I found the function that is responsible for switching weapons in general. It's called process weapon switch. Somewhere here there should be a condition that prevents us from switching weapons if we're in a vehicle. However, I didn't find anything like that inside of this function. This means that this condition has to be placed before the place where this function is getting called from. To find all of these places, we can press Shift plus F12 and find all of the references. I know that this one is the one we're looking for. We end up in process control. Once again, this is the main function that controls all of the logic. And here's our function call. Before we have a few conditions, but once again, I don't see any mentions of vehicles or driving or anything else. So the condition must be elsewhere. Where else can it be? Well, technically it can be above this function call, and if we scroll all the way up here, eventually we will see this. This is an early return, which means that if we hit this line of code, if we execute it, then everything that's below it, including the function that is responsible for switching weapons, is not going to be executed. So how can we hit that early return? Well, we hit this early return if this condition is true. Let's see. If pet state equals to pet driving and objective is not equal to objective leave car. Oh yeah, so here's our condition. If we are driving, we hit an early return, we don't execute anything that's below. And that's why we cannot switch weapons if we are in a vehicle, if we are driving. So how does the close icon help? If you watched my video about the phantom state, you might remember that when you pick up a close icon, dress char command is getting called. And here we call the dress function, and inside of this function, our state is getting changed to ped idle. So it is no longer ped driving. And that means that this condition right here becomes false. Therefore, we don't hit an early return, we continue executing code that's below, and eventually we reach the line of code process weapon switch, and that's why we can switch weapons even inside of a vehicle. This is the whole explanation. Time to sum everything up. When an auto-scroller starts, the game remembers your current weapon and how much ammo for it you have, so when the auto-scroller ends, it can give you everything back. At the same time, the remembered amount of ammo stays in memory until we die, get busted, or reload a save file. There are also other methods of remembering your current weapon. One of them is entering any vehicle if you have an SMG in your inventory. If we want to keep this weapon stored in memory, we have to somehow switch away from an SMG while sitting in a vehicle. Picking up a close icon allows us to do exactly that, because it resets our current state. Now, if we go through another auto-scroller, we are going to receive the old ammo count for the new stored weapon. We don't have to use different missions like speedrunners do, we just need one mission with an auto-scroller. But there has to be a way to fail this mission after the auto-scroller starts, without dying or getting busted. Then we start the mission to remember the ammo, we fail it, and then start it again to copy ammo to a different weapon. Such auto-scrollers exist in Phnom Penh, Supply and Demand, and Naval Engagement. In the last one there are actually two auto-scrollers, both in the cutscenes. The first one is when we're swimming towards Haitians, and the second one when we're swimming ashore. But do you remember when I said that we can be attached to other objects too? During the shootist mission and shooting range side mission, we are attached to an invisible object, given a pistol, and told to shoot at the targets. And this can also be used for the trick. I think that the shooting range side mission is the easiest, fastest and most convenient mission for copying ammo. While we were summing everything up here, I had enough time to copy ammo twice. Here is how it's done. Select the weapon you are going to be copying ammo from and start the side mission. As soon as you get an opportunity, fail the side mission and return back to the road. Select the weapon you are going to be copying the ammo to, get in a vehicle, pick up a close icon, switch the weapon, get out of the vehicle, return to the shooting range and start the side mission again. And just like before, fail the side mission as soon as you can, and congratulations, you've just copied the ammo. And nobody stops you from going back to your vehicle, selecting a different weapon, getting in, changing clothes, switching weapon, getting out, starting the side mission again, and thus copying ammo to the second gun, then to the third, fourth, and so on. You can copy ammo to the whole inventory in less than 10 minutes. Switching weapons can also be done differently. For example, we can pick up a rampage and the weapon will be switched automatically. But I still think that the close icon is much better. Unfortunately, I don't think we can fix this bug in just one line of code, so I don't have anything to show you. Instead, I've prepared a challenge that will show us how good you understood the topic. I select a pistol, get in the vehicle, pick up the close icon, scroll through the whole inventory and stop on Tech 9. Get out of the car, select the shotgun and get back in the car. What weapon am I going to be holding when I get out of the vehicle? Leave your answers in the comments and make sure you explain your choice. And that's everything I have for you today. Make sure you vote for the next topic. This time we have only one poll and you can find the link to it in the pinned comment. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. And if you don't want to miss the next episode, consider subscribing. We are less than 100 people away from 11,000. My name is Wofil and I'll see you the next time.